Next question.
Okay, two questions. First, when you came out of the pool after first failure, and you went back to the people and said that I want to quit, what were their reaction? And second, what were the 5 key things which you did after deciding a startup in Karachi? So what were the steps in the first 5 steps you took?
Okay, so first question is, what was the reaction of my investors and partners? They were very upset. They were very, very upset. And their read was that you're quitting. And there is more that we can do to make this work. And my question was that we've been trying to raise serious funding for the last 6 or 8 months. And that funding effort has failed. It's not working. One of the things that we did wrong at Avicenna was that for a period of 2 years, when we actually had the money, whatever resources we had, we used them to raise funding. So we spent an enormous amount of time in writing a business plan. We spent an enormous amount of time in getting the prototype out, starting conversations with customers, but not closing them. If we'd taken the same amount of effort and spent that in closing customers and generating revenues, things may have gone in a different direction. So my response to my partners or my investors when they said that, we think you're making a mistake, was that I think we're out of cash, we're out of money. I think I need to take some time off because I've been working non-stop for about 2 years and I don't see this going elsewhere. I have evidence that suggests that we've been outplayed, and I can see that this game will end 6 months or 8 months down the road. So rather than carry on this agony for the next 6 months or so, I would rather call it quits. This was one question. The second question you asked was, what were the 5 things that I did? I called up about 15 people or so that I thought could give me work, and I asked them for it. And one of them said yes. So that gave me enough work to focus on for the next 1 month and enough money for us to go out and print stationery, to get our first employee, to get a laser printer and so on. So I'll go back. So you had one question here?
Yeah. So my question is regarding any sort of budding entrepreneurial conundrum, which is waiting for a very innovative or unique idea versus taking a simple idea and executing it well. Given the business you have done, I mean, how much do you think is worth waiting for a good idea versus just going ahead with a simple one? Because your corporate finance idea is something that, it's a great idea, but something that we all can think of. I'm similarly about the second idea. And second random question is, why do you have an A at alchemy? Because you don't have at the last. You don't find the domain name?
Yes, that's right. So it was alchemy.com was taken, alchemy.net wasn't attractive enough, and we named the firm Alchemy Associates, so it became Alchemy. And then at that time we thought, one day we will dominate the Middle East, and we dominate the Middle East, so we call it Alchemia, which is the alchemy in Arabic. So the idea was to have a rich Arab investor signing checks for us and saying,
I'd love if you, this is a pretty detailed question. I'd love if you could talk a little bit about the valuation process when you were presenting to investors, and whether or not you were cash flow positive, and the terms of equity according to that.
Right. So now, the first conversation I had with an investor so if I look at Avicenna, it's a very simple chat. Columbia had an executive in residence program, and the recently retired head of Deloitte was part of that program, was on campus. So I went to see him and said, I'm focusing on this continuing professional education side, and I think this is a great market. Because, I'm an accountant, I get it, because I have to do this all the time. So what are you doing now? So I'm moving to Southern California. He says, moving to Southern California, go see Fred Koska at Deloitte's office in Santa Ana, and he'll help you out. So I moved, I called Fred says, come over. Made a very simple basic pitch, and Fred says, I work with the Angels Network in Orange County, and we have a meeting next month. If you can sort out these 10-15 items, we'll go ahead and put you up on the agenda and you can present and see what happens. So, Columbia graduate from New York, very, very arrogant, completely surrounded by the reality distortion field. I asked Fred, what's the valuation? Fred goes, we do about $2.5 million round and with a post money of about $10 million or so. And I said, that's too low. So what can I do to get a higher valuation? Fred looks at me and says, get a customer, get revenue, get traction. You can see it. I said, okay, I'll get these and talk to you 6 months down the road. And so Fred was a very good mentor, and he helped us out enormously throughout these conversations. But we never went back to Fred because we kept on moving the mileposts. So one of the things that I talk about is, if you have an idea, it is very important for you to just ship it. So take the simplistic, the most idiotic version of your product and ship it. Because if you ship it and you take it to a customer and that customer says this works, doesn't work, or works for these reasons, doesn't work for these reasons, you've saved yourself a lot of pain. So for instance, I came here, firm that I run, we're looking at expanding to the US, and we have 3 markets. So we have the hedge fund space, the banking space. In the banking space, it's the small and community banks and the large banks, and then we have the insurance company space. And the last 7 days, all I've done is I've spoken to people asking them hedge funds, large banks, small banks, insurance companies. Right? And while everybody has different ideas, some of the people I've spoken with come from the same industry. And the insight I've gotten from that is very valuable. So rather than coming to the US, launching the product, creating collateral, creating a focus and a push that focuses on one specific segment, by bringing this out here, even before I have a product ready, has given me some direction. So when you go in front of an investor, if you just have a piece of paper, the term sheet that will be in front of you in most likely cases would not be acceptable. That depends on who you are. We had conversations later on with investors for alchemy, and we raised a small round of $100,000 in our 3rd or 4th year at $1 million valuation, very low valuation for a company that has money in the distribution of products. But we did it with a customer who'd already bought our products. And he literally came to us. He said, I like what you're doing. I have cash. I have connections. I don't want to boat seed. Here's a chunk of cash. Do something with it. So, did I answer your question?
Yes.
You said that when you failed the first time and you went and you told your investors they were very angry with you. And one of the things that I'm most fearful of is not so much failing myself, but failing my friends and my family and the mentors that invest time and money into the business. And so I'm kind of curious, were they angry forever? Or did you burn a lot of bridges when you go under? Or how do you manage that relationship once you get through the failure?
Okay, so I think about 5 people put money in Avicenna. I'm still talking to 4 of them. One is still himself. But there are other reasons. I think he had just as big a stake in this as we did, and so it was the incubator. The incubator went under, and we went under with him. So my take was that, if you have the money, I would do this, but you don't have cash, I don't have cash, we can't find anybody else to give us cash, and I'm borrowing $5,000 a month every month, I can't do that. I already have a lot of debt, and I don't see this going anywhere. Answer your question?